think that we're due to see a lot of consolidation still
Mhm.
in that space. I think that it's correct to call them media companies. It's interesting, and I've tried to catch myself recently, but it's very easy in this day and age to view all information, regardless of it is, as content.
Yeah.
Like we need to be creating more and more content. And I think that media companies view themselves as creating content. And then the
Mhm.
question happens to be, what is the point of this content? Who's the audience for? And is it sufficiently differentiated from anything that anyone else is putting out there? And
Yeah.
so when you look at the size that we used to have in terms of these larger companies, you're right that I think it's very difficult to imagine that you need 500 journalists in a contemporary news organization. More and more, we see what I think that Shades is able to do, which is to benefit from the almost user generated, media generated content that exists out there that is being completely untapped rather than trying to create new first party content. I think that primarily we think that the problem that we have in today's day and age isn't one of volume. It's
Yeah.
certainly not one of we don't have enough perspectives and I need to hire a new beat reporter in order to cover the X, the financial perspective on whatever is going on in my local town or whatever it is. Someone else out there is probably already doing that work for you. And so it just on the question of margins, it doesn't make sense to be hiring a lot of this work out there. Primarily, the problem that we have is that the information already exists, but that
Yeah.
nobody can find it. No one
Mhm.
has able
Yeah.
to source it, to curate it, to determine whether or not it's credible, to verify it, you could say in that way. And so I do think that Shades, together with a lot of these, with new media that we see, are trying to unlock this question of how do we just make it easier to deal with the stream of information that is already coming at us and that is incredibly overwhelming. I think that Shades is unique insofar as we're building something that has an immediate appeal and attraction to a demographic that typically is not interested in your news and your journalism, but that is incredibly interested in consuming new media and that is almost rapacious with respect to how much new information they want. And so for Shades, it's not a question of trying to rip and replace TikTok or Instagram or even X or Twitter. We think that we sit adjacent to those platforms and that we provide a palate cleanser of sorts. For us, it was very important that we didn't want to be necessarily the first ones to be able to have coverage on a particular story. We thought that it was important to have a bit of that lag, to have a little bit of that delayed gratification, such as it is, to be able to see what are the perspectives that are going on, what are the reasonable takes that exist out there, and what are the salient points that our readers and that our users need in order to better understand this particular issue and to feel more confident about what's going on. And for us, it's interesting how there's a lot of anxiety
Yeah.
when it comes to young people and information. They recognize that they're not reading the news. They recognize that the information that they're getting may be biased, but they feel trapped with respect to where they would go in order to find out these different takes. And I think that I don't know what your perspective is, but on my perspective, what ends up happening, I think not just among young people, but just generally in society, is that because things have become so overwhelming and because it's not easy and it's not fun, the tendency is to check out altogether, which from a place of civics and for the betterment of society also doesn't seem like the right solution for everyone to just kind of drop out and leave the decision making, the policy making, and the coverage of what's happening to the people that are at the fringes that are motivated enough by their particular take and inclination to be participating in civic discourse. And so we didn't want people to be dropping out altogether and wanted to be able to provide just another tool really for being a citizen in the 21st century and how you stay informed and how you stay up to date. And we think that we're unlocking a better way of doing